Thank you. Welcome to the first of the Open Virtual Days at the Architectural Association. We are Landscape Urbanism. And my name is Alfredo Ramirez. This is Eduardo Rico, and we both co-direct the program. We are here today to explain you a little bit about what we do in this design program. And we're gonna also invite some of our students, current ones, but also the ones that have just finished the program, so you can have an idea or a broader idea what were the experiences they had, what kind of projects they produce, but especially what in landscape urbanism we are doing. So the first thing is I want to ask Eduardo to give you a short overview of what the program is all about, and then we'll take it from there.
Hello everyone. Well, landscape urbanism is a program which kind of asks what is the role of designers, both architects and landscape architects, within the role of what we call a territorial project, large-scale projects, where we have to understand the position of design in large-scale environmental policies, large-scale interventions which shape the territory, which shape our environment, but where typically there's not design involved. We work with large-scale processes, software. We work with GIS techniques and try to critically interrogate what are the reasons behind these techniques and what are the outcomes of them. The program is 12-month MSc and 16-month MArch, focusing on different aspects, whether it's more smaller scale or larger scale products. And what we're going to do now is run a small video that somehow introduces the course and the main outcomes that we've achieved over the last years, where at least from the moment from where Alfredo and me, we jumped into the direction of the course.
We live in an age of crisis. Climate change, water scarcity and energy shortages are all environmental signs of the profound changes being inflicted upon our social, economic and political organisations. They are the result of the way humans have chosen and imposed on others to relate with nature. Intricate networks of global, regional and local scales produce inevitable interdependencies across a range of territories and landscapes worldwide. The Landscape Urbanism program at the AA believes architects and designers should have a relevant decision-maker role to influence the way the world is shaped. The program experiments and imagines new ways in which the design professions can speculate on our relationship with nature and the world. To achieve this, the program explores territory as a field of design praxis. The program works within the built environment, understood not as independent objects, but rather as interconnected and related landscapes and territories, influencing each other at various scales. This unique graduate course offers the opportunity for students to learn the latest technologies to simulate the behaviour of cities, landscapes and territories. Through the use of analytical software, scripts and fabrication tools. However, the program goes beyond a blind faith in technology. It promotes critical perspectives to take decisions, compromises, prognosis and diagnostics in order to propose specific interventions in relevant sites in close relationship with local agencies. To communicate this, the program uses cartography as the way to represent cities, landscapes and territories. Cartography is embedded with design intentions. It not only portrays existing conditions, but it helps to understand historical developments and reimagine how territories will look, develop and perform in a range of possible future scenarios. Students are encouraged to travel and meet local agencies, institutions and people. Students learn to listen, understand and negotiate with stakeholders in real conditions, putting forward their ideas through design. As a result, the AA Landscape Urbanism program produces design projects that can be read as policies at the large scale and material prototypes at smaller scales. If these cartographies become policies, they can be used to challenge predominant economic systems and repurpose social configurations. This could bring architecture into the front line of a political debate that helps to visually communicate and negotiate the consequences of these policies. AA Landscape Urbanism welcomes architects, landscape architects, urban designers, engineers, urban planners, and geographers to assemble multidisciplinary cohorts. Starting every September, the AA Landscape Urbanism program offers 2 degrees, a 12-month course leading to a Master of Science and a 16-month course leading to a Master of Architecture. Find out more about the course at landscapeurbanism.aaschool.ac.uk.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to give you a little bit of context of where the program started. Back in the 1999, the program was founded by Moise Mostafavi and Ciro Nakle. There was a moment in the discipline, in the profession, where there was a resurgence of the concept of landscape and how landscape would shape cities and urban environments. So at the AA, the school created this program to provide an answer to that question. And the answer was from, let's say, an architectural point of view, and was developed through a number of different tools, especially digital tools that combined with landscape concept allows the evolution of the program. At some point in 2004, the program was taken over by a new director. At that moment was Eva Castro. Because at that moment, let's say in history, there was the question of what landscape urbanism as a discipline would actually produce in terms of what would be the answer to the rapid urbanization conditions such as China and India. So the program focused a lot in those contexts. So landscape urbanism was a way to say, okay, development is happening very fast, and architects and landscape architects needs to provide answers to that. So we were working with existing master plannings and with existing projects together with the students. And then in 2014, Eduardo and myself took over the program because there was or I think we thought, and the sort of master as a whole thought that there was a necessity to act upon this planetary urbanization that links cities with rural environments, and there wasn't really a necessity to focus only on cities, but also onto areas that were affected by those kind of urbanization. That's where we are right now, where the program is actually thinking about territories, landscapes, without dividing what one might call urban and rural. So Eduardo can give us a little bit of an explanation of what are the main research topics that we are basically looking at right now.
I mean, one of the things that in a way worries us is asking the question, when you get a car and you go outside into the countryside, you see the landscape, the territory has a certain spatial characteristic, and we always ask ourselves, well, somebody has been making a number of decisions that have turned the landscape and turned our country the way it is. What we ask ourselves is that, was there a designer, was there somebody with design skills there and then when those decisions were made? Was there somebody really thinking about architecture and landscape architecture there? We think that not necessarily. So we thought about, is there a possibility of creating what we call a project, of introducing ourselves within those discussions, what we call the territorial project, of this combination between understanding physical, natural dynamics and social formation. So what we said from the beginning is trying to understand what are the tools, what are the theoretical underpinning that in a way should structure such a discipline and should help us think about that. So on the one hand, we try to work with simulations or software simulations that try to, in a way, predict, let us understand how the environment is going to shape, how the rivers morph, how sand dunes, different geomorphological formations are generated. We think about cartographies, mechanisms of generating interactive maps, public participation tools that help understand how social dynamics are mapped and represented. We try to think about concepts coming from political economy, whether it is about commons, public participation, new forms of cooperativism that may help us to understand how space is generated, and in a way a number of ideas that can help us push ourselves as a discipline up there in that sort of like realm of questions of generating of the space at such scales which is typically the realm of policymakers, but not necessarily designers.
Also, something that is very at the core of the program is to relate it with actors that are doing this type of work, especially here in the United Kingdom. So we relate a lot with economists and with geomorphologists because we think that part of the job that it's being done by them can be done by architects, obviously in terms of collaboration and conversation. So we have links, close links with the British Geological Survey, from whom we have borrowed some of the software that Eduardo mentioned we use. Or we have also a close collaboration with the New Economics Foundation and some of its members, where they come and give us some advice, comments on the policies that interfere, that affect the type of projects we develop. So that's something that really drives the projects of the students. At the same time, it's important for them so they can feel there is a real connection with contemporary issues, with contemporary problems. And in order to do that, they also travel to specific locations.
The field trips are typically not necessarily just a way of seeing the site or having a visual contact with the site, but also contact with the different agencies, with the members of the community that fabricate those landscapes and that fabricate those social formations with which they are going to be working with. Also, we have developed a number of techniques to gather data, to sort of like process data, physical, and we are going to see one of the cases where the students went to Hook Park as a way of fabricating a number of techniques of generating three-dimensional data gathering with photogrammetry from utilizing a drone that we have in the course. So we're going to see the video now. It works. Last year in Hook Park, which is this amazing facility that the IAA has Dorset, whereby the students were using a drone to map the entire environment. I think it's like a forest, I think 3 times the size of Hyde Park, turning the entire forest into a mesh. This is what we're seeing there of points gathered from orthophotogrammetry created with this technique of fabricating point clouds based on photographs. We then utilize a system of creating proximity data for different trees and sort of like forest networks, as we can see here. We also tried other techniques such as kite mapping and different ways of generating data from the site. There are also workshops of more physical modeling, such as the one we're seeing there, with physical, or at least threading systems. There are also workshops on simulating tools, as we've discussed before, with river simulation, or at least riverbed simulations, sand dune simulations that we have been gathering over the course of the years. This is the sand dunes that you are seeing now, river systems, meandering systems, which we got from British Geological Surveys. And this is a number of images that we can see from projects last year. I think this was in Spain and this is in the UK around, of different types of representation systems and simulations, as we can see here. In this case, it's wind simulation. That's again water simulation.
Yeah, as you can notice, the majority of the projects works in large-scale site. No? That's an important topic that we always come back to it, because the question of the program is how design interacts or what is the relevance of design at large scale, beyond, let's say, the scale of the building, the scale of a piece of a city, or the scale of even regions. And so in order to continue this conversation, we have asked Raúl Bielsa, who is joining us now. Raúl just finished the Master in Science in Landscape Urbanism this September. He had a presentation at the beginning of it, and he submitted his book, and he's awaiting the assessment of it. But today, he is with us to explain a little bit about his experience. And we would like to ask you, first of all, what was the main thing that you are taking with you in terms of experience from the AA?
Well, I will say that the AA is like you can meet people from all over the world, and all of them have different ideas about what an architectural school is. So there is also a lot of different architectural related things to do, like lectures or workshops or like student events. So I guess the vibes here is what I like the most.
And what did you actually get from landscape urbanism?
So from landscape urbanism, I would say, on one hand, you learn a lot of different tools about cartographies and simulations and like interactive tools. That's like a technical thing, no? But you also get like a more broad vision about what landscape urbanism is, no? That you get all the economic and social aspects of it.
Before I explain you, I was about to ask you about your project, but you have prepared a video that you will share with the audience. But before we go through the actual project, one of the questions we want to ask you is, what do you think the type of project you have produced here at the Landscape Urbanism is important for the profession? No?
Yeah, I will say that the most important thing of this project is that so we are designers, and we focus in like territorial aspects of spatial things, but the project also, because it works with large scale scenarios, it also focuses like in more digital techniques and how all these kind of apps that right now they are like making the cities and the landscapes, how they inform and produce new landscapes.
Yeah, so perhaps you can take us a little bit through the video you have produced.
The video, we're gonna put it now.
Yeah.
Of this video, Fish and Match.
So this was the project, Fish Match, and we just started working with coastal communities and small inshore fishers in the UK, because we were working with this NGO, New Economics Foundation, and so fishers in the UK, they are facing a lot of problems related to fishing policies that came from the the European Union, and how that influenced the Brexit deal. And they are facing also like problems with the market and the logistics and the fishing spots related to marinas and to working beaches. And so we just researched about all of these issues, and then almost focusing in the south of UK. And then we tried to develop this kind of digital tool that is like a phone application that is called Fish Match, just in order to put the fishers together and make new relationship between them, and try like through different actions like marketplace, decentralized market, and like a quota exchange so they can fish more, and like fish pilgrimage actions, and they can just move around different ports in the UK. So we also raise some questions about like how all these digital technologies produce future landscapes, and how we can imagine these landscapes with this kind of data gathering through the app. So we just focus on some areas in the south of the UK, like Sidmouth, and try to like make a simulacrum of if this app is working, what will be the outputs that this new landscape, how this new landscape will look. So also we try to focus on the features and to make like spaces that are made by the features for the features. So yeah, you just try to raise these kind of questions about data ownership, community, and trusting relationships. Yeah, in order to see how it will look like.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Raúl. We would like also to invite a couple of new students. So you have a little bit of an idea of the type of cohort we have this year. We have, first of all, Jasmina Yeye. She just joined the master this year. And we will ask her some of the questions that perhaps some of you are already wondering about. So the first question is like, what was the main reason you selected this program?
So basically I selected this program because I wanted to be able to reach an understanding of the different layers of the landscape, the underlying layers of the landscape, and how you manipulate them based on design knowledge. To me, I have a personal interest, which is landscape and emergencies, and so to be able to understand that, there's quite an important link between what is earth science and what is design, and this program has a lot to offer in that sense.
Okay. And what do you think is landscape urbanism is important as a specialization?
I think in terms of specialization, it's important for all the architects and the landscape architects of our generation to understand that right now it's not about designing for anymore, it's about designing with. So landscape urbanism gives a much global image on that. I mean, it allows you to understand the larger scale of these things.
We also have Elena Swastegi. She is not a designer by training, but an earth scientist. And in a way, we thought it's a good example of the multidisciplinary approach we like to bring into our cohort. And we would like to ask similar questions to her. What is it that you are looking for? Why did you actually choose landscape urbanism at the first instance?
I believe landscape urbanism and earth scientist, which is my profession, we both study territories, but researchers produce like a lot of data. Each day they get more specialized, and in the other way we produce very specific diagrams or very narrow-minded ways of expressing what we have to come through research. And then designers, they apply all this data we're producing to imagine new ways of understanding territories, which is what I am interested in, and that's why I choose this.
This is for Jasmina. Even though you just joined the program, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the experience of the first term.
Yes. So so far the program is quite condensed in the first term, and I think the whole point of the first term is to really like involve the students and make them grow to become really master student level. So basically, it's very reliant on design practices. So we are here to engage, apply, and practice ideas together. And this is the main preparation for term 2, where you're very much prepared for your thesis.
And for example, Elena, in your case, what do you see are the correlations between your discipline and landscape urbanism, between earth sciences and landscape urbanism? Do you see any complementary qualities between those two worlds that can actually produce something new?
Yeah, I think science could use a lot of landscape urbanism to see new ways of understanding landscape and territories are getting each day more complex, and the relationships among every actor are something it's going out of our schemes. So this kind of multi and interdisciplinary way of producing maps or producing design could give us a new sense of understanding the world or territory.
Okay. It's good to hear. And finally, perhaps this for both of you is what do you think would be your expectation after you finish the program? Jasmine.
Personally, I would like to be able to manipulate fluently actually, issues that are related to ecology, landforms, territory, as well as socioeconomic disciplines, just to be able to have that with the knowledge of design, and then eventually being able to apply this to a professional or personal level where we're able to use all of these complex tools that we're grasping from here and all of these theories acquired.
In my case,
complement that.
I have a lot of tools designers know how to use in a technical aspect, but I think in a broader sense, what I want to do is to think a bit more like a designer and be a bit more creative with all this knowledge I got, and of course learn from my teachers and have a lot of feedback, which is pretty much the vibe of the school.
Okay. I don't know if we have more time, 2 to 3 minutes. There are some questions from the audience that obviously we can reply via email, but I think we have given sort of broad landscape, maybe redundant, of what the program is all about. But all these questions that you've sent, we can just post it, or if you go directly to the website, you can find the majority of them reply.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.